welcome to my channel. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. I was driving back home after hanging out at my cousin's house one night. You know how it is. We just hung out, laughed a lot, shared some old memories, and next thing I knew, it was getting late. It was pitch black out when I left his place. I wasn't really in a rush, but I felt a little uneasy. I always feel a little weird driving alone at night, especially on those quiet roads where there aren't many streetlights. It's like the darkness creeps up on you. Anyway, I was just minding my business, listening to some music to keep me awake when I saw something ahead. At first, I didn't think much of it. I thought it was just an animal or something, you know? But as I got closer, I realized it was a person standing on the side of the road. My first thought was, what the heck is someone doing out here this late? It didn't make any sense because it was the middle of nowhere. No houses around, just an empty stretch of road. As I got closer, I realized it was a woman. She was standing there, completely still, just staring straight ahead. Her clothes were kind of old looking, and her hair was long and messy, hanging over her face. I don't know why, but something about her just gave me chills. I couldn't see her face clearly, but I had this weird feeling like she was watching me. I tried to shake it off. It's probably just someone walking, I thought. But who walks in the middle of nowhere at this time? As I drove past her, I couldn't help but glance in my rearview mirror. And guess what? She was still standing there, not moving, just staring at the road. I felt a shiver run down my body. I kept driving, trying to forget about it, but it didn't take long before I saw her again. I had barely gone a mile when I saw her at the next turn. Same woman, same creepy stance. I swear my heart skipped a beat. How did she get there so fast? There was no way she could have walked that far in such a short time. It didn't make sense. Now I was starting to freak out. I told myself, it's just your imagination. You're tired. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. It was the same woman, wearing the same old clothes, standing in the exact same position. Her head was tilted just slightly, and she was looking right at me. I tried not to look directly at her, but my eyes couldn't help but drift toward her as I drove by. The feeling of dread was growing, like something bad was going to happen. At this point, I just wanted to get home as fast as possible. I turned onto my street, feeling a little relieved that I was almost there. My house was just up ahead, and I could see it in the distance. But then, as I pulled into my driveway, I froze. She was there, sitting right in front of my house. The same woman, same clothes, same creepy stillness. She was just sitting on the ground with her head down, like she had been waiting for me. My hands were shaking, and I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to run inside and lock the door, but another part of me felt like I couldn't leave my car. It was like I was stuck, too scared to move. For some reason, I had this gut feeling to turn on my high beams, like maybe the light would scare her away. So I did. I flicked them on, and the second I did, she reacted in the strangest way. She started twitching. Her body jerked and twisted in this unnatural way, like she was glitching or something. Then she stood up, slowly at first, but then she started moving toward me, her body still twitching and jerking in these weird, stiff motions. Her head was still down, but she was coming right for my car. I panicked. I didn't even think. I just threw the car into reverse and sped out of there. I didn't care where I was going. I just wanted to get away from her. My mind was racing. What the hell was that? Who was she? How did she get to my house? Nothing made sense, and the fear was overwhelming. I didn't know where else to go, so I headed back to my cousin's place. It wasn't far, and I knew I'd feel safer there. When I got to his house, I banged on the door, practically shaking. He opened it, looking confused, and I just blurted out everything that happened. I didn't care if I sounded crazy. I just needed to tell someone. He listened, his face getting more serious the more I talked. When I finished, he didn't say much. He just nodded and let me stay the night. I didn't want to go back out there. I couldn't. The whole night, I couldn't stop thinking about that woman. Who was she? And why did she follow me home? Even now, when I think about it, I get that same uneasy feeling. I haven't driven that road since. I prefer to go the other way now whenever I have to go to my cousin's house. Story 2. I had spent the whole day at my cousin's place, helping him build a chicken coop. You know how it is. One of those tasks you think will take a couple of hours, but it ends up eating up the whole day. We didn't even start until after lunch, because we were just messing around, cracking jokes, and losing track of time. My cousin had a few beers lying around, and, well, we got distracted. Before I knew it, the sun was starting to set, and we hadn't even finished hammering the last plank. When we finally wrapped up, it was pitch dark. I didn't realize how tired I was until I sat in the car, trying to get my head straight. My arms were sore from all that hammering, and my back felt stiff, like I'd been carrying bricks all day. Rob said his thanks, but I could tell he felt bad for keeping me that long. He even offered to let me crash at his place, but you know how it is. There's nothing quite like sleeping in your own bed. So I declined, said my goodbyes, and hit the road. The drive back home was supposed to be relaxing. The air was cool, and the stars were out. Normally, I love that kind of quiet drive, with just the hum of the engine and the road stretching out in front of me. It's like the world slows down and everything's at peace. But that night, something was different. At first, I didn't notice it. The road was familiar. I'd driven it hundreds of times before, but as I kept going, there was this strange feeling in the pit of my stomach. You ever get that? Like when the hairs on the back of your neck stand up for no reason? It felt like someone was watching me, but of course I shook it off. You're just tired, I told myself. You've been working all day and you need to sleep. I kept driving. It wasn't until I reached that stretch of road just before the big turn near the woods that I saw her. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. You know when you're driving at night and your mind starts to wander? Sometimes you see shadows that aren't there, or catch a glimpse of something in the corner of your eye that vanishes as soon as you look at it directly. I thought it was one of those moments. But no, she was real. There was no mistaking it. She was standing on the side of the road, just off the pavement, her pale face barely visible in the dim headlights. She was wearing this long, white dress that looked like it had seen better days. It was tattered and dirty, hanging off her like a forgotten memory. Her hair was long and dark, almost blending into the night itself. She wasn't moving, just standing there, staring right at me as I drove past. My first reaction? Confusion. I mean, what was she doing out there, in the middle of nowhere, at this time of night? It didn't make any sense. But I didn't stop. No way. Something about her gave me the creeps, like an ice-cold shiver running down my spine. I kept driving, glancing at the rearview mirror, hoping to see her disappear in the distance. But even as I turned the corner, her figure lingered in my mind. I tried to brush it off. Just some hitchhiker, I thought. Maybe someone broke down and needed help. But then why didn't she wave or signal for me to stop? Why just stand there, staring? I made the turn, and for a brief second, I felt like everything was fine again. The road ahead was clear, and I figured that was the end of it. But just as I started to relax, I saw her again. This time, she was standing even closer to the road, almost in the middle of it. Same dress, same pale face, same dark hair. I hit the brakes, my heart pounding in my chest. How could she be here? I had just passed her. There was no way she could have gotten ahead of me. It wasn't possible. I slowed down, my headlights illuminating her for just a moment, and that's when I realized something was terribly wrong. Her face, it wasn't right. It was too blue, and it was like she wasn't entirely there. Her eyes were hollow, dark holes that seemed to suck the light out of the air around them. And her mouth? I could swear she was smiling, but it wasn't a normal smile. It was twisted, unnatural, and too wide. I slammed on the gas. My mind was racing, heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I didn't know what I had seen, but I knew I had to get home. fast. I didn't dare look in the rearview mirror this time. I didn't want to know if she was following me or if she had disappeared again. I just wanted to be home, where everything was safe and familiar. The rest of the drive was a blur. I could barely think straight. My mind kept going back to her face, that smile, those empty eyes. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I was shaking. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles had turned white. I sat there for a minute, trying to catch my breath, trying to convince myself that it was over. Nothing happened. No more ghosts, no strange feelings. Just the quiet of the night and the soft chirping of crickets in the distance. I laughed at myself, feeling a little silly for getting so worked up. "You're just tired," I muttered under my breath as I opened the door and stepped out. The cool night air hit me, and I felt a little more grounded, like maybe I'd just imagined the whole thing. I took one last look at the car, just to make sure everything was fine, and that's when I saw her, sitting in the back seat, staring right at me with those same hollow eyes. I froze. My body just locked up, and I couldn't move. There she was, sitting in my back seat. Those hollow, empty eyes stared right through me, and that wide smile was still there, etched on her face like it was carved into stone. How did she get in there? I had locked the doors when I got out. I was sure of it. But there she was, as clear as day, sitting in my car like she'd been there the whole time. I backed away slowly, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. My legs felt weak, like they were about to give out any second. Every instinct in my body screamed for me to run, but I couldn't stop looking at her. Something about those eyes, it was like they had me locked in place. She didn't move. She didn't make a sound. She just sat there, staring at me, like she was waiting for something. I stumbled back a few steps, still keeping my eyes on her, and somehow I managed to reach my front door. My hand fumbled with the keys. My whole body was trembling, and my fingers didn't seem to work right. After what felt like an eternity, I finally got the door unlocked and threw it open. I practically fell inside, slamming the door behind me. My chest heaved as I leaned against the door, trying to catch my breath, trying to figure out what the hell just happened. Was she still out there? I didn't know. I didn't want to know. For a few minutes, I just stood there, staring at the door, like it was the only thing keeping me safe. My heart was still pumping, my mind still spinning. Part of me wanted to turn around and peek out the window to see if she was still in the car, but another part of me knew better. I didn't want to see her again. I took a deep breath and tried to calm down. "You're just tired," I muttered to myself again. "You've been working all day, and your mind's playing tricks on you." But even as I said it, I didn't believe it. I'd seen her, clear as day. I knew what I saw. I glanced around my living room, half expecting her to appear in the house somehow, but everything was normal. The same old furniture, the same dim light from the lamp in the corner. It was quiet, peaceful even. For a second, I almost convinced myself it was over. Maybe it was just my mind playing games after all. Maybe I just needed some sleep. But then I remembered the car. I had to check. I had to be sure. Maybe, just maybe, I could prove to myself that there was no one there, and I could finally get some peace of mind. I moved slowly, cautiously, toward the window that looked out at the driveway. My heart was racing again, but I forced myself to peek through the blinds, just for a second. At first, I didn't see anything. The car sat there, just like always, dark and empty. Relief started to wash over me, and I almost laughed at how stupid I'd been acting. Of course, there was nothing there. I was just seeing things. But just as I was about to step away from the window, I saw her again. She was standing outside the car now, right next to it, her pale figure illuminated by the faint light from the street lamp. She wasn't looking at me anymore. She was looking at the house, her head slightly tilted like she was listening for something. That same wide smile was still on her face, like she knew I was watching her. I stumbled back from the window, my heart pounding harder than ever. She was real. She was right outside my house. I didn't know what to do. My mind was racing with 1,000 thoughts, none of them making any sense. Should I call someone? But who would believe me? I backed away from the window, trying to keep my breathing steady. I didn't want her to know I was watching. I didn't want her to know I was even there. Maybe if I just stayed quiet, she would leave. Maybe she wasn't looking for me and this was just some bizarre coincidence. But deep down, I knew better. I couldn't just sit there though. I had to do something. I grabbed my phone from the counter, my hands still shaking, and quickly dialed my cousin's number. Maybe he would know what to do. Maybe he could come over and help me figure this out. The phone rang, but there was no answer. I cursed under my breath and tried again. Still nothing. I was on my own. I sat down on the couch, phone still in hand, and waited. Minutes passed, but they felt like hours. Every creak of the house, every gust of wind outside made me jump. I was terrified she would find a way inside, that any second I would hear a knock at the door, or worse, see her standing in the hallway. But nothing happened. After what felt like an eternity, I finally gathered the courage to look out the window again. I slowly pulled back the blinds, just enough to see the driveway. She was gone. The car sat there, alone in the dark, and there was no sign of her anywhere. Relief washed over me, but it was mixed with confusion. Where had she gone? Had I imagined the whole thing? But no, I knew what I saw. She had been there, twice. Once on the road, and once in my driveway. And now she was gone, just like that. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, those hollow eyes and that wide smile. The next morning, I was exhausted. My mind was still spinning, trying to make sense of what had happened. I even considered going back out to the car to check if anything was off, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. The thought of seeing her again, of her sitting in my back seat, sent a chill down my spine. For days after, I couldn't stop thinking about her. I kept having the feeling that she was still out there, watching, waiting. Every time I drove past that part of road, I half expected to see her standing there again, staring at me, but she never appeared again. Thank you for listening to this video. I'll see you in the next one.